Welcome to the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. Here we chat to some of today's best small business leaders, individuals who are shaking up their industry and dominating their niche. The show tackles all things business growth, from strategy, marketing and branding, and delves into the secrets of what it takes to dominate your niche. The aim of this podcast is to empower founders with big dreams, small and micro businesses, and even solopreneurs who are looking to make a big impact. People who are hungry to learn from those who have gone before them and implement that knowledge to next level in their own business. So welcome, lean in, and then go take action to propel yourself towards dominating your niche in your small business. Welcome to the latest episode of the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. I'm excited to introduce you to Sarah Hamilton-Gill, an entrepreneur with 30 years of experience growing 6- and 7-figure businesses, specializing in HR consulting, coaching, and mentoring for independent consultants. Sarah is a best-selling author, and she's helped over 200 consultants launch themselves, moving out of the corporate world and into self-employment in the first 5 years. She shared so much value on the podcast today. Key themes include visibility and credibility. She shared her story of writing her book and growing her own podcast, as well as the importance of LinkedIn. We also look at disc profiling personalities, and she shares her success habits with us. Lean in, it's a great episode. Hi, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So, Sarah, my first question for you. You have 30 years of experience as an entrepreneur, and you've grown various businesses to 6- and 7-figures. So what I would love to know is about that journey, your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you come to be within your current business?
Yes, well, it certainly doesn't feel like 30 years, that's for sure. I fell into consulting at the age of 30. It didn't exist back in 1994. It was very much a case of being an HR specialist within a management consulting firm. We didn't even have the internet. So you can imagine trying to run a business with that as a context.
Very different.
Oh, hugely different. I mean, when people say now, oh, it's quite difficult running a business, it isn't.
Yeah.
It seriously isn't.
There's
30 years ago.
Technology these days. We
Oh,
don't know we're born. It's amazing.
exactly. So I would say the 30 years has been my best personal development journey.
Love it.
As I've grown as an individual, so my business has grown. Went from, solopreneur, as many people start out, all the way up to a business with a 10-year lease on their office, 21 staff.
Wow.
And over £1 million turnover.
Congratulations. And honestly, the leap from being a solopreneur and the skills that you need there up to that size of team, and also that size of financial commitment, like a 10-year lease. Do you look back and are you like, what the fuck was I thinking? Or are you like, that was a great decision?
When that 10-year lease came to an end, I vowed that I would never, ever have a business of that shape and size again.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've had much smaller businesses and they've been far more profitable.
Okay. So, tell me about that lesson then. What was it about that size of business that you didn't want by the end of it?
I think, you also, the context of it was I was running, pretty sizable business with lots of responsibility, but I was also a single parent to 2 boys.
Oh, bless you.
I was
so you're superwoman.
Yeah. Well, I think I was trying to be superwoman and putting on my cape and going to work and everything was all hunky-dory, but actually the pressure and the commitment was huge. And for me, I mean, in those days, we still didn't have the digital world that we have now. So, scaling a business up then was very much around, oh, well, we'll take on more projects. So therefore we need more associates and more consultants.
And they're all in the office on top of each other.
They're all in the office. We had a lovely
got to be within a small travel distance to get there.
Exactly. And it was very much, the expenses were going up at the same rate as the income was coming in. So you weren't actually making any more profit the bigger you got.
Do you know it's isn't it amazing? I have a lot of conversations, but the big businesses that you assume are making loads of money aren't necessarily,
I
and it's a
know.
scary position to be in.
And it's, in those days there wasn't the balance of the digital and the hybrid and the e-commerce. So I grew a business that was appropriate for the time that it was then. I would
Mm.
never dream of growing a business like that again now.
Yeah, love it. So tell me, where have you got to now? So your current business,
Hmm.
because you've got more than one business at the moment, don't you?
I've got two different client bases, but I've got one legal entity. So I've got one
Oh,
business,
okay.
but we've got two different client bases. So where I'm at now is all of the work I do is about creating agile businesses. So I'm actually based in Corfu 50% of the time.
Which I am super jealous of.
And I
Congratulations.
love it. It
Yeah,
was my childhood dream. At the age of 17, I kind of flew into Corfu for a family holiday, fell in love with the island. Thankfully, it wasn't a Greek, and didn't do a Shirley Valentine. But the whole of my business career, I was always thinking, how could I get back to Corfu?
oh
How
my
could I go and
goodness. And
work there
when
and live
did you
there?
move out there? When did you sort of make that leap
It,
to be out there 50% of the year?
it became more of a reality in 2019. But in 2018, I had to get Greek residency in order to stay here, bearing in mind we had, on the horizon, we had this kind of rumblings about Brexit taking place.
Gosh, of
Um,
course.
so yeah, it kind of kicked off in 2019, and then of course we had the
I
pandemic.
love it. And what better place to be trapped than on some gorgeous island?
Oh well, sadly,
Oh no, please don't tell
sad,
me.
yes, yeah, you couldn't write the book. Sadly, I
Oh,
got trapped in the UK. I came back
oh
for 1 week, and it was the
no.
week before the lockdown.
Shit.
I know.
I'm so
So I was
sorry.
locked down in the UK for 6 months, which was not, it wasn't bad. I had my kids there and it was
Yeah.
lovely to
And
spend
the
some
weather
time
was
with them.
lovely back then. I think we had
Yes,
the
it
last
was.
blast of good weather.
I think, yeah, yeah, that was the last time the sun came out. So
Okay.
yeah, so yes, I have a
So
very
so
agile business. I
yeah.
have some of my
And
team
and
based in
for our
Corfu.
listeners, when you say agile, what does
Yeah.
that mean? Because not everyone's going to understand that.
Okay, so I have a business that all of my systems, my operations and everything are completely cloud based. So I can literally pick my laptop and my phone up and go and work anywhere in the world.
Love it.
And my team, I've got some of the team based in Corfu, some are based in the UK, some are based in the Philippines. So we have a blend. Um,
Amazing.
and occasionally we get together face to face, particularly in Corfu. We get team meetings here. So yeah, it's very, very low maintenance, low expense. Well, it's not low expense. There's lots of other things that are expensive, but we don't have offices and we
Yeah.
don't have lots of, in my view, unnecessary
Yes.
expenditure.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So recently I had somebody on a discovery call and I have to say I didn't end up working with them. I think they sort of saw me as shooting down their dreams. And they were like, I'm going to take on this big premises. And I was like, you've just told me you're not making profit. Why would you do that? Why would you add
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
5 grand a month expense to your business? That is
yeah,
insane. And you're like, I'm not meant to be telling you this is insane here. I'm just meant to be asking you questions, but I'm just to be like a good person, please don't do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
they worked with
exactly.
somebody else,
And I
which
think
I'm quite
there is
glad.
there is this kind of dream, and I do get it because I've done it more than once. It would be great to have an office and have everybody in the office and have this atmosphere of team. It
Mm.
doesn't seem to work like that anymore.
Yeah, and honestly, people don't want it. They don't want to have to come into one central venue. Like it's nice to do from time to time, but actually people love that flexibility and that freedom. So yeah, the modern world,
Yeah,
actually COVID's been a real blessing in
it
many, many
has
ways because it's
in
given
that
us
respect. It's been
a
brilliant.
lot of freedom to
Yeah,
run our businesses in a way that just works so well and it's so
yeah,
easy.
yeah. And I can remember moving out here and telling my clients in the UK that I was moving to Corfu, and the kind of the sheer look of horror on the faces. And this was before the pandemic, so
Yeah.
and then of course it was a non-issue as soon as
Mm,
everybody started working from home during the pandemic. I've never had anybody say, "Well, where are you based then?"
mm.
I mean, it kind of gives it away when I got a suntan, but apart
Everyone's
apart
just
from that.
jealous.
Yeah. Oh, where are you then?
I love it. Okay, so your current business, it's
Mm.
very agile. You've got a business that you can pick up your laptop, you can work from anywhere in the world. And how many have you got in your team at the moment?
Oh, 7 of us.
7. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
also quite an elite, streamlined team.
Oh, yes.
Very
Very,
nice.
very, very. Each person is very laser focused on what they want to do, what they're passionate about, what they can do for the business as well.
I love it. So the main focus of what you do is
Mm.
helping potential or future HR consultants to leave their paid employment and
Yeah,
set up on their own. How
absolutely.
did you come to be in that? Was that a journey through HR consultancy yourself?
So, having been in consultancy well, I've now been in consultancy for 30 years. What I used to find is I'd go in, do a piece of work for a client, and typically I would have the HR director or somebody in the HR team kind of have a quiet word in my ear and say, oh, I'd love to be a consultant, but I really don't know how to do it. And after having heard this for so many times, I thought there must be some kind of a niche that I can create where I can actually help people take that leap from the corporate world into consulting.
And when did you start doing this?
So
Because you
that
were you the
started,
first? Were you aware of anyone else that was doing it when you
no,
started?
no.
So you've basically, because there are others now, I'm sure. I actually don't know of any, but you
There's
must have
two.
competitors. Okay, so you have basically created a niche where you are the standout
Mhm.
go-to authority.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So the book, Leap into HR Consulting, which your listeners won't be able to see because it's a visual behind me.
But it looks
That
gorgeous.
it is. It's really nice. It's the only book on Amazon on that
Oh my
topic.
goodness. And do you sell loads of them?
I sell. I could sell a lot more if we did a lot more marketing, but yes, there is a very steady demand for it, and as soon as people find out it's available, they do buy it. So we've got some great reviews on that, and we've also got the podcast that links in with it as well. So
I love
um,
it. So, a book and a podcast, this is the perfect time to ask about how did you, so when you started up your business and
yeah.
helping others to become consultants, how did you go about positioning yourself and getting visible?
So the interesting thing about that is when I first started doing it, it was really, really low key. It was tapping on the shoulder of a couple of people that said, "Oh, I want to go into consulting. Can you help me?" So none of that existed. It was literally a case of doing one-to-one coaching with people and helping them transition. Um, and then there was a sense of urgency that I'm very intuitive and I kind of picked up back in 2020. This was obviously the year of the COVID. I kind of in my mind thought, if I don't do this, somebody else is going to publish a book on that
Mm-hmm.
topic. So I literally spent I don't know if the listeners across the world, but in the UK, we had something called a bounce back loan in the UK during the
Yeah,
pandemic. So I actually applied for a bounce back loan, not because I needed it for my business, but I thought if I can invest in creating my book,
I
which
love it.
costs
And
a
I'm
fair amount
I'm
of
gonna
money,
ask, yes, I'm super aware. So did you write it yourself
I
or
did
did
write it
you?
myself. Yeah,
Okay, well, God, good girl. That is a
it
hard
is tough.
slog.
And
Yeah.
I'm not good at writing English. So my grammar, my spelling, and probably slightly dyslexic. So it was a
Yeah. All the best
challenge,
people are.
huge challenge to do it.
Yeah, well, congratulations. And what's your first language? You're not very good at writing English. Is English your
Oh
first
no,
language?
English is my first
Okay.
language, but I'm not good. I never
Okay.
have been, even at
Well,
school.
to be fair, we really don't need to be.
We don't
The
now. I mean,
technology now is
I
amazing.
know ChatGPT didn't exist when I did the
Yeah.
book. And
Oh
you're
God,
not
but you wouldn't want to
actually,
use that to write a
well, you're
book.
not allowed to use it to publish a book.
Yeah.
You have to state that you used AI if you're going to do that. And Amazon won't accept any book that's been written on AI.
Mm, didn't know that.
Mm.
Interesting. Well, do you know what? I was actually considering literally earlier today. I mean, the kids go this episode's coming out next week, by the way.
Right.
It's been the summer holidays. I am very much doing everything last minute. My kids went back to school today, and it was that walk. Yeah, yay. God. It was that walk back from drop off that I started thinking like, oh, the book, because I've had this book idea in me and it's evolved a bit. It's never got out of me because the project's too big. But
Yes.
yeah, but my plan, and for anyone who's thinking about doing it, there are some brilliant book coaches, but I'm going to dictate it. So I'm going to use my iPhone, open up a Google Doc.
Yeah.
Because the dictation on my iPhone is much better than on my laptop. So dictate it onto my iPhone into a Google Doc, edit it on my laptop in that doc. And honestly, you can and I'm going to do 30-minute writing sprints.
Yep.
And just bash it out little by little. But probably a year or two away because quite frankly, yeah. So for anyone who is listening and they're like, I want to write a book, it's a brilliant way to position yourself as an authority.
Absolutely. And, you know, from deciding to doing it and getting it published, it took me 6 months.
Oh, that's quite quick, isn't it?
Which was very quick.
And did you self-publish or did you use?
No, self-publish.
Good girl. Yeah.
So, I did have a coach. I did pay to have a coach because
I think I might know. I think I might know your coach. I think she's going to be a guest on here quite soon.
Begins with a K.
Oh no, I don't.
Ah, but there you go. Yes, I would highly recommend her. I won't, but yes,
you're welcome to plug.
Well, for me, I would highly recommend. It's Karen Williams. So from
I don't know her. I'll look her up.
Really, really, she's probably the best known in terms of helping to get a business book out there.
Okay.
She's got really good methodology, and the downside, if there is a downside to me having written a book, was that I'd been on one of these weekends where it's like, write your book in a weekend.
Oh gosh.
So I had got an element of structure to that, and I dictated some of it into my phone and all the rest of it. And then when I went to see Karen and said, look, I've got some stuff, and she's got a really clear methodology which really works. And she looked at what I got, and I looked at her methodology, and we literally had to scrap it and start again.
Sweetheart, that must have been painful.
It was hugely painful, but do you know
what? But it worked.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
The old new way didn't work. The new way did work.
So when did you write the book?
2000. So I started writing it in March 2020, and it's published in the November 2020.
Good girl, good girl. And has that made a big difference to your business, just from the people's perception of you? Because I think honestly, there is no better business card than handing somebody a copy of your book, because it instantly validates you as an authority for what you do.
Absolutely. And I think when I first wrote it, my first thoughts were, nobody's going to read this. Nobody's going to find this interesting.
It's that imposter syndrome, isn't it?
Fear. It's like I've been quite vulnerable. I've put my story in there as well. And, you suddenly have this real fear that everybody's going to read about you and they're going to know about your backstory. And then they're going to criticize your book because I kind of went back into school mode and thinking, the teachers with the red pen are going to be sitting there kind of critiquing it all.
Oh, and that's not,
None of it happened.
And it's these voices in our head that hold us back.
Oh, God,
and I'm so glad that didn't stop you, because this book has probably changed like thousands of lives.
It has, literally. And I get people that have contacted me saying, I cried when I read your book and it's changed my life, and my husband's happy. And I know, I'm like,
I'm welling up hearing that.
I know.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So definitely, if you're thinking, if the audience are thinking about writing a book, you have to do it, but you have to start.
Yeah.
And you've finish. Got to start. Well, yeah. Start with the structure first. Don't.
Yeah. Map it out.
Yeah, map it out in detail first.
One of my clients is a book coach, and she uses a Trello board and just maps everything out. So yeah, it can work. I mean, everyone's got a different methodology.
Yeah.
But you've got to get there, and then you just fill in the gaps. Like, what do I want to say around that topic?
Well, and also, I mean, this is something I learned from my coach, and something anybody thinking about doing it needs to remember. It has to have a flow. So whilst we might write about different topics, there has to be a connection and a flow going
segues
from one to the next. Yeah. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Okay, enough book chat. I want to
Yes.
talk podcasts. So you told me earlier you're on your 80th, possibly pre-recording. You told me you're on your 80th
Yeah.
podcast episode.
Yes.
How has that impacted your business? Because quite frankly, no one does a podcast just to have a podcast. There's always a
No.
purpose to it.
Yeah. And I think for me, again, it comes back to the world we live in right now. The book and the podcast have a global reach.
Yeah, that's
Without
amazing.
without those two methodologies, I would be very much a UK centric business coach. But the book and the podcast are in, I think it's probably 35 countries.
Amazing.
So suddenly you've got this huge reach and visibility across the globe that you would never get from anything else.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And would you say that those two things have been an integral part of your growth strategy?
I think they have. And I think one of the things that we haven't done is we haven't capitalized on that enough. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been very organic.
Yeah,
I've got a member of the team that's just joined us recently. They are going to focus on the book and the podcast and actually
interesting. Well, I
maximize
was
it.
I was going to say, if you were to capitalize on it, what would that look like?
Yeah, and I think there are lots of platforms that the podcast isn't hosted on. There's all sorts of things we can do with taking the content from the podcast and creating summaries, AI summaries that you can
Mhm.
now do. There's a
I've
whole
I've
host of
just
things.
discovered it might be a useful tip both for you and anyone listening. Opus Clips.
Oh,
You
okay.
can, so because if you've got a video podcast, yeah,
Yeah,
write it down, write it down.
yeah,
You can basically chuck a YouTube link or like I don't know, you chuck it in, and my VA does a lot of it. I've been
yeah,
on the platform, but I don't actually know how to use it. But you just chuck the material in, and it's
yeah,
got to be video. But what I've done with an audio only podcast is I've made it into a YouTube with just like a static image behind it. So it's
yeah.
kind of video. Whack it into Opus Clips. It spits out 10 to 20 little clips with a summary, and you just like, oh, and it ranks them as
Oh,
well. Like, does it
wow.
have a good hook? And it's brilliant. It's an absolute game changer. So, something
Ooh,
that
thank you.
doing that manually would have taken
Yeah,
hours, it's like seconds. You've got to have the processing time, but it's
yeah.
not lots. So,
Oh,
yes,
that's amazing. Thank you for
for
that
our
top tip.
listeners, Opus Clips, it wasn't my tip, but I'm just passing it on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
You're
much. I'll
welcome.
definitely
Game
look at
changer
that.
there.
Yeah.
I love
So
it.
yeah, I'd highly recommend, the book and the podcast. Yes, they do take time, but actually it comes back in spades in terms of the
Mm.
benefit for you and the business.
And I also think like it's almost, I'm not sure if you can call it that charitable, but it's paying it forward because
Oh
not
yeah.
everyone is in a position to use us.
Yeah.
There's probably 1% of the people who are aware of us who are actually going to reach out and
Yeah.
work with us, whereas others are just there to glean what they can for free. So awesome. Let's give them as much value as possible.
Exactly.
And the book and the podcast are the best way to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what I would love to know, obviously, those have been two key growth strategies for your business. What other strategies did you use to get you to where you are today?
I'm a real advocate of using social media to grow your
Mm-hmm.
business. And um, quite controversially, I don't think you actually need a website to launch your business.
Ooh, I
I
think
know
I'm with you, but I think a lot of people would shoot me. So, sorry,
you'll
guys.
probably shoot me as well, but I've actually got a podcast coming out this Friday talking about, in fact, tomorrow, talking about why you don't need a website to launch your business. Because I hear so many people kind of procrastinate about launching because I haven't got the
Yeah.
website finished.
Oh my goodness. I had a client
So
like that. And when you're like, I don't care, just start shouting about what you do.
exactly. So for me, LinkedIn is a game changer,
Yeah, me too. I use it
absolute game changer.
all the freaking time.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good platform. If you
And
know how to use it properly, you can get 80-90% of your business through LinkedIn.
Where does one learn how to use it properly? I'm not sure I know.
Um, well, I mean, I do run some kind of webinars, free webinars for our kind of community. There's
Oh,
loads of people that
yeah.
are doing LinkedIn training. You just need
Yeah.
to be careful because there's a lot of LinkedIn trainers out there
I
that
don't know what they're
charge an
doing.
awful lot of money, and actually, there's a lot of free resources out there as well.
Yeah, I love it. So for anyone who's thinking, I don't know well enough how to be using. I mean, I'm pretty good, but I've never had like proper training. Yeah, go and Google. There's good stuff around for
Yeah.
free.
Have a look on
Awesome.
Eventbrite as well, because there's always,
Mm, top
webinars, free
tips.
webinars on Eventbrite.
Okay, so for you, it's really all been about visibility. So like social
Yes.
media,
Yeah.
getting visible, podcast, book.
Yeah.
And what have been the keys to your growth through LinkedIn? What specifically is it? Just sharing value? Have you done one of those cold messaging strategies?
Well, sharing value is a really interesting one because with my kind of psychometrics hat on here for a second, a lot of my clients, if we look at the disc profiling, and maybe
Hmm.
some of your audience are the same, they're probably an ID profile or a DI profile. So
Okay. And for
they're
those of
not.
us who cannot remember what that is, I have looked at this stuff. I have no idea what it is off the top of my head.
So I'll just say, so an I person is very much very extroverted. They don't have a great attention span, but they're great at ideas, good at socializing, good at networking, good at talking, not great at listening. Um, D's are very task focused. So when I post on LinkedIn, and I'm the same because I'm an ID profile, I don't want war and peace. So if
Mm.
somebody is posting a value content piece that takes me 10 minutes to read it, I'm not going to
Oh
read it.
gosh. I
I'm not
want
going to
value
read
in
it.
10 seconds.
Exactly.
I think
So
we've got
so for
similar
me,
personalities.
yeah, so for me it's bullet points, headlines, hook, that's it. So LinkedIn does have four measures that it looks at for your content. And my one of my measures is slightly lower because I'm still not going to do long, lengthy value pieces.
Oh God, me
I do the
neither.
newsletter on
Hmm.
LinkedIn, which is very valuable.
And
And I
actually,
highly recommend anybody
LinkedIn
does that.
newsletters, mine gets, I set it up. I'm terrible at doing it regularly. In theory, it's monthly, but months stretch into 3 or 4 months, as you can imagine. Like as soon as I set it up, I probably had like 3 or 4 times as many people on there as I did on my like I'm gonna say physical list, my
Yeah,
sort of actual mailing list that I spent years building. So it was
exactly.
such a quick win.
It's a really good thing to have, and you have to have creator mode on your LinkedIn to do it. But so for example, the newsletter that we have on LinkedIn, I think we've got something like 36,000 subscribers to it.
Wow.
And the way to see whether that's actually valuable or not is to see who the demographics are
Hmm.
on that audience. And mine are all HR related. So
Love
so I
it.
know that it's hitting the
Wow.
right people.
And the thing with newsletters for anyone listening is that it's playing the long game. It's that
Oh yeah,
marathon, not a sprint. So
yeah,
on average, you're probably going, I don't know what the LinkedIn stats are, but for a normal newsletter, you're going to get about 20% of people actually opening and reading it. No idea on LinkedIn, but it could be similar, but it won't be everyone. And the key thing you want is for people just to see your name and remember you, whether or not they read. There's going to come a point in time, as long as they don't unsubscribe,
yeah,
that they need you. And that's when they're going to start engaging. So for anyone who's like, oh, literally 20% of people are opening or, even only 40% are opening, sometimes my clients are gutted. And I'm like, that's
that's
very
good.
high, actually. That's bloody
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
But actually, you're just nurturing your future pipeline.
exactly. And
So you have got a massive future pipeline there, Mist.
yeah, and also the beauty of the LinkedIn newsletter is it actually sends an email
Yeah.
to your subscribers saying that the newsletter has been posted. So it's straight into your inbox.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect.
so yeah, it's a great social media. The listeners really need to get their head around utilizing LinkedIn because you can get so much work from that. It's very efficient. It's a great way to, improve your visibility, your credibility, and everything else that goes with it, really.
Amazing. Okay. So the next question for you. So I am a big believer in the things we do on a daily basis are going to take us towards where we want to be
Yeah.
or away from it. So,
Yes.
what I'd love to know from you is, do you have any daily habits, like success habits, that you can share? So, what are your non-negotiables? And even more important, what are the things that you wish you were doing?
Right. So it's two different kind of approaches to this. So during the summer, my non-negotiables, um, which do impact my business, is I have a very healthy regime in the morning. So I have a put together a smoothie with all my vitamins, minerals, and all the rest of it, and I go for a swim.
Love it.
Non-negotiable. I'm actually doing the Macmillan Cancer 21-mile challenge, swimming challenge at the moment,
Good
which
luck.
which should have finished
Yeah.
at the end of July, but I was not here for a month. So yeah, so
And
those are
there's no
my
swimming pools in the UK, so it would have been impossible.
oh, well, honestly, seriously, not good. Um, so so that's those are my personal habits. From a business point of view, my absolute non-negotiables that I think everybody needs to do. You have to do business development every single day.
So what does that look like for you? Is that like a LinkedIn post? Is that
It'll be LinkedIn, it'll be following up, responding to, I mean, I get quite a few of the things that drive me potty is all these different channels that keep coming in. So, I would be responding to messages, I'd be having discovery calls. Um, you know, you have to keep moving your pipeline forward, even if you think you're stacked up with work.
Mhm.
If you don't think 3 to 6 months ahead all the time, you're going to get the peaks and troughs and end
Yeah.
up being on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's
And
really not
and
a good place to
honestly,
be.
most people are on a roller
Yeah,
coaster, but
yeah,
it's being conscious that that dip is going to come.
yeah,
So, yeah, and sometimes it doesn't need to be us. So if you are in that place where you're absolutely frantic, think, how can I get somebody else to
yeah,
be pushing my pipeline forward so that when I need the work or when my team
yeah.
when it work dries up for my team, we're in that strong position.
Exactly. And there are lots of automations you can do as well. You can do scheduling, you can do automations. There's plenty of ways to support. You don't have to do it all yourself. But I'm a
Awesome.
stickler for LinkedIn. I won't let anybody touch my LinkedIn.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so can you tell me, we need to wrap up soon, but can you tell me quickly about a time that you failed?
Oh God, absolutely. So my biggest kind of failure stroke learning event was 10 years into my business, my first business. This was when I had about 18 people. I was told I needed to have an operation. And so I thought I'll go in on the Friday and I'll come out on the Monday and I'll be back to work and it will be hunky-dory.
Oh
Anyway,
God.
yeah. Anyway, I didn't come back for 3 months.
Oh, what
And
happened to your business?
well, I had to liquidate it when I got back.
Oh my
So
goodness. I'm
I
so sorry.
I know. So I'd actually got an MD that was running it in my absence. But he couldn't get the sales in because it wasn't me. So so my biggest kind of not only was I not feeling well, but then I've now got my kind of my baby, my third
Your
baby, my
baby and
business
your
is kind of
income source and
everything, the
oh
whole
my
works,
gosh.
complete belly up moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a moment where it's like phone a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Who did you
phoned,
phone?
right. Well, this was an interesting one. So I phoned a CEO that was one of my clients who I'd got a
Okay.
good relationship with. And I said, look, this is a scenario. What would you do? And he said, Sarah, everybody has a failed business at some point. It's not a
Yeah.
problem. You just do a phoenix. And I'm like, what's a
What's a
phoenix?
phoenix?
What's a
Yeah.
phoenix? And a phoenix, I found out is you close one business, you start another one virtually straight away, but there are some legal considerations around that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did. Closed
Okay.
one, started the next,
And do you know what? I know people
and
who've done that, but the emotional
oh,
toll of that is
I
big.
it took me years to get over
Oh,
it.
sweetheart.
I was like, and I felt, 10 years, we'd celebrated 10 years at Jamie Oliver's and all the rest of it, and then suddenly it's gone. And so my biggest learning for anybody is you have to create a business that's not centric around you.
Yes. And actually, that's yeah, if you God, if you can't be hit by a bus and your business is fine, you need to sort that out. Let's stay away
Yeah,
from buses,
exactly.
guys.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
safe. Let's not
yeah,
make that a thing. But
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So that was my biggest failure. I've had a couple of other big learning moments, but that was the one that really stuck the knife into my heart.
Well, you seem to have come out stronger for it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And you learn from these things. And, I've taken that into my coaching business. When people say, oh, it's very centric around me, I'm going, right. That's the first thing we need to work on then.
100%.
Yeah.
So what advice, final question here, what advice would you give to those looking to scale their business?
So scaling the business, the first question I would ask is why? Why do you want to scale it? What's that
Great
going to give
question.
you? What's that going to give you that you haven't already got?
Love it.
And then if there's a definite reason for scaling it, it's about doing it in a very smart way. So making the best use of technology, not necessarily scaling it by having people scaling it, but looking at passive income, reoccurring income. Look at all of the things that make a huge difference. So that if you don't want to get
You're
out
a
of bed in
brilliant
the
coach,
morning,
aren't you? You are good at this stuff.
so yeah, scaling up. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Why
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much. Well, Sarah, for our listeners,
Yeah.
for anyone who's anyone in HR especially who's listening to you and they're like, I want to know more. Where can they connect with you? And are there any resources, anything they should be checking out? And for our non-HR, because most of our listeners aren't HR, just, there's a few, but I'm sure this will get passed on.
And you know what? Most of my resources are applicable to any business owner, not necessarily just HR consulting. So the best place really is just to go to the website, which is leapintoconsulting.com, and you'll see all the various things on there, the resources, the book, the podcast, they're all kind of listed on there. And please connect with me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yep. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
I'm on LinkedIn, Sarah Hamilton-Gill. There's only one of me.
We'll
There's only
all
one
the links
person with that name, I can assure you.
Not a lot of Ruth Ferreiras in the world either, I should say. Depends how you spell it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And I hope your audience have enjoyed listening to the podcast today.
Thank you for listening today. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. Even better, come connect with me, Ruth Ferreira, on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'd love to get to know you.